Alright guys, I'm back and we're finally going to get to the point where we're rebuilding this. Well, we're not. We've basically rebuilt it. Now we're just going to be building a coil for it, putting it back together, uh, filling it with some fluid and giving it a test out and see how it operates. Um, Now these Kayfun 3.1 atomizers, they're designed uh, for to be used with silica wick, and I've built mine with silica wick, and uh, it works great. I mean, that's what it was designed to use, and I'll right here I got some 3mm silica wick, and usually what I'll do is I'll double it up and I'll wrap my coil around it, and I'll have a total of two ends, going down on either side of the base here into the e-liquid. But what I found that actually gives a better flavor and vapor production is actually Echo wool. And what I have here, it looks a little thicker than the silica wick, but this is actually 3mm also. And I don't know, I think they go by the size of the tube on the inside of this to determine the size. I might be wrong, but anyway, this is 3mm Echo wool, and I just find that it gives about a 10 to 15% increase in vapor production and in flavor. The flavor's better with this, as well as a little bit better vapor production than straight silica wick. But silica wick works fine. Now I'm going to show you how to build this thing, and I'm going to try not to ramble too much, but this is what I do. This is how I build my coils for this particular atomizer, and they work great. Awesome for me. I love them. Alright, I start off with my 3mm Echo wool, and what I have here is some people might call it a stick pin, a hat pin. Basically what this is a pin that I got off a boutonniere. So you might be able to pick them up from a flower shop or whatever. And basically what I do is it works out great for a lot of different reasons, but what I'll do is I'll just set the pin up on top of the Echo wool, and I'll hold it like that, and I'll figure out where the end is, about right there. And then if you don't have a pair of these, go to the dollar store, go to the grocery store, whatever, get you a pair of these, man. These come in so handy for my vaping kit that I got put together. What I've got is a tackle box for fishing, and I got all my tools that I've specifically bought for vaping, and I keep everything in that, and that way everything that I need is always in one spot. I don't have to go out to my workshop and grab a pair of cutters or scissors. I mean, I've got my own tools strictly for vaping, and they're in their own little tackle box, all nicely separated, and I keep all of my supplies in there. So anyway, the reason I like these are, I got these at the dollar store, and these are I guess clippers for like cuticle, and they had like 2 or 3 different pair, and I went with the most expensive pair. They were about $2 more than the cheaper stuff. They just looked to be made of better quality, so I'd recommend going with the little, pay an extra couple bucks to get something of quality, right? So I like them because they'll cut through the silica wick and Echo wool with ease, and they cut the Kanthal wire real good, and they're just invaluable, man. I couldn't do it without them. I've seen a lot of people using toenail clippers and stuff like that, but I like this design because I can, work with it a lot better. Anyway, so I've never built a coil on camera before, so forgive me if it looks sort of wonky, but I'm going to do my best. So what I'll do is I'll find that center part of that echo wool, and I'll just feed my straight pin through it, and I'll push it up against that little pearl looking thing. Okay, so the pin's through there. You can see the tip of the pin right there, and I'm ready to start winding my coil. So I'll set this down for a second. Now for my particular build, I'm going to be using 32 gauge Kanthal. Here in the future, I'm probably going to be trying out some 28 gauge Kanthal, because that seems to be pretty popular with a lot of builders right now. But I'm not going to be able to do it until I change the screws out on these atomizers, because I can barely get this 32 to fit under there and tighten down, and I'm almost certain that 28 ain't going to work on that. I'm going to have to get the upgraded stainless steel screws to be able to go with bigger Kanthal. But this is how I do it. I mean, I maybe have a couple inches hanging down below there, and I'll grab it with my thumb. Like I said, I've never done this on video before, but I'm going to try and do it to where you can see pretty good. So I've got the wire on there, and hopefully you can see. And I'll take it and I'll wrap it 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay. And some folks will go 5. I prefer this for myself. It heats up a little bit quicker, and you know, I've had good luck with it. Good pair of tweezers always comes in handy. And I don't know if you can see, I'm looking here on my viewfinder, and yeah, you can see how I got one wire coming down and one wire going up. When you get completed with your wrapping, that's how you want it. You don't want both wires coming down on the same side. Okay, and the reason why is because when you go to put your to screw your wires down, see how it is going to work like that, where if you had both of them on one side, it just wouldn't work. So while I got this on the pin, I am going to just sort of try and work this wire to where it's sort of even, and I don't have any of it touching each other, and I don't have too big of gaps. I want it to look somewhat presentable, and you know, I can do some more adjustments once we get it on the actual Addy base. But one thing to mention is since I got that stick pin going through that echo wool, you can, when you're wrapping it, you can really bear down on it. Now you wouldn't normally do that when you're freehand winding without a stick pin, because you'd basically crush your echo wool down, or your silica wick, to where it would stop wicking. But with that stick pin in there, it keeps that echo wool from collapsing, and it basically, you know, allows you to put a good tight wrap on it without issue. So that being said, it's time to go ahead and try and put this thing on the base. So what I usually do at this point is grab my base, and like I said, I haven't done this on camera, so I don't even know if I'm going to be able to attach it to where you guys can see it, because I got the camera in between me and this, and it's sort of difficult to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull my stick pin out, and I don't know if you can see, but both of my pieces of wire are basically on top of the echo wool. They're not down on the bottom unless I turn the echo wool. I don't have one on top and one on bottom. They're both on the same side, and I don't know if you understand basically where I'm coming from, but anyway, I like to put this thing on to where the wire is on the bottom of the echo wool. Well, my leads, I'll call these my leads. The two pieces of Kanthal, I'll call this a lead and this a lead, right? So my leads coming down to my post, I want them on the bottom instead of up on top of the echo wool. I want the leads coming off the bottom down here, and you'll see why in a minute. But I will go ahead and I'll stick my coil in between my two posts. Okay, and like I said, I haven't done this on camera, so bear with me. But I'll hold one lead with the one I'm not tying. I'll sort of hold it up against its post with my left finger, and then I'll take the one that I'm going to be securing first, and I'll go ahead and wrap it around its post. And what I do is I haven't seen nobody do it like this, but I almost have to do it because these screws are so small. But I'll actually make a whole loop around that screw, and that will keep it from coming off. And then what I'll do is take my screwdriver. Well, actually I need to take up a little slack, and this is another reason it's a good thing to put the entire loop around it, is because you can grab it with a pair of needle nose and you can take up a little slack like that if you need to, and then just tighten it down just like that. Okay, now we got one more lead that we got to attach, and what I'm going to do is get this lead out of our way, and I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to attach this other one to the other post. Okay, and like I did on the other one, I made a complete loop. And you can take up slack with your fingers. You don't have to use a pair of needle nose, but I don't know. Sometimes it's helpful, I guess. Alright, so now it's time to tighten this one down. And there you have it. It's tightened down, right? Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll come in here and I'll just cut the excess Kanthal away from the posts, and we are done. Okay, now at this point I'm guilty of what the original manufacturer did, and most of you will be when you put these things together originally. And what that is that the coil is on there securely, but just one little end of it over here is touching the base, and you don't want that. So what you can do is just gently grab your wick and pull it up off that deck to where it's not touching, and once you do that, you're good to go. Okay, so our coil is done. It's put together, and now it's time to put this thing together. Now what I'll do is I'll grab this piece here, I'll slide it over my wick and I'll screw it all the way down. Okay, and make it good and hand tight. And then what I like to do, I like to leave about a 1/4 inch above that tube, okay? And I'll just cut to where I got a 1/4 inch only coming up above that tube. Man, I just sent echo wool everywhere. Oh well. Alright, so that's what you'll end up with right there. Okay, now what I like to do now is go ahead and put a little e-juice, e-liquid on my coil, or on my wick actually. I'll just wick, you know, wet the wick a little bit. And what that does is it makes it much easier when you go to put this wick down into your channels for your e-liquid. The only thing is, when you go to put these in like I'm doing right now, you can see down in there and you'll see your little juice pockets where the juice comes up. You really don't want to obstruct those channels or entryways unless and this is just hypothetical because I don't know, because I usually don't use a very tight draw, but the only way I can think of somebody possibly wanting to cover those up is if you like a really tight draw. And because of that tight draw, remember I said these work on pressure differentials, okay? And so when you're sucking in to get vapor, you're actually pulling the pressure differential that's created, actually makes the liquid come up into this collection cup through those little juice channels. So if you got an open draw like I do, you're not going to be pulling a lot of juice up in there, because with an open draw like I've got, you're not creating that big of a pressure differential. But if you got your airflow adjustment tightened in because you like a really tight draw, then it could lead to possibly bringing in more liquid into this area than what you would want. So when you put, if you're one of those people that like a tight draw and possibly you're having that type of situation, then you might want to try actually putting your wicks in front of those little juice channels to try and block so much juice from coming in. Just an idea. Okay, so now we're going to put our chimney in. Okay, let me get some of this echo wool out of the way. I'm sorry this is such a long video here, but I will probably break it up into 2 parts. Anyway, got me a mess here. That's one of the things I hate about working with this stuff, is you get little pieces of stuff everywhere. But yeah, it's all part of the enjoyment of building this stuff and playing around with it, you know. So it's not that big of a deal. I just don't want it interfering with the video to where you can't see what's going on. So anyway, we've got everything put together so far. The next thing I'm going to do, and like I said, I never take my drip tip out of the top cap. I just always leave it like that. We'll go ahead and put the tank on, and I will go ahead. Yeah, I'll wait. I was gonna put it on my mod, but I'll wait a second. Now it's time to fill. So I'm gonna actually show you what I do to fill these things. So I found my 2 air holes. Since I've got technically it only has one air hole, but since I've got the screw out for the airflow control, now I've got two. So I'll take and I'll cover those with my finger, and then I will go ahead and start adding juice. Okay, and I won't fill it all the way up, but I'll put enough to where it'll give you a good idea, and you can see that juice coming up. Alright, so I've pretty much stopped right just a hair below the top band, and I am going to go ahead and put my lid on until I feel that chimney touch that gasket, and then very quickly flip it over and just finish screwing it in. And this is a done deal. So I'm going to put this on my EA clone. Don't she look pretty? That's a pretty mod and a pretty atomizer. Alright, let's check it out. Oh yeah. Doing just what it's supposed to do. Very good flavor. Like I said, you know, quality out of the factory is gonna vary depending on what manufacturer you purchase from, you know, what you're choosing and everything. But you know, even if you go with a cheaper type atomizer, or even, you know, even the more expensive stuff, you still need to know the parts and you know what causes it to work and what causes it not to work, and with just a little bit of practice you can get in and rebuild these things yourself. You can, like I said, for me, if I was selling these, I would change the insulators. I would throw away the manufacturer's wick that's installed. I would throw away the spare one that they give in the actual kit that you purchase. And what I would do for my customers, I would just I'd put about a foot of Kanthal wire, and I'd put about 6 inches of 3mm Echo wool in there. I'd replace the screws to stainless steel, and I'd replace those insulators. And that's if I was selling this particular atomizer, you know, from this manufacturer. You know, other than that, some other manufacturers have maybe already addressed the stainless steel screw issue. Some of them haven't. You know, it just depends. And this isn't the only atomizer that needs those type of upgrades. I mean, you go on different vaping sites, and you're going to see where people have had issues with you know, different atomizers and stuff like that. And it's just all part of the game. Once you start moving into this type of equipment, you basically have to prepare to educate yourself on taking them apart, putting them together, and basically just making yourself aware of the dangers of not learning that stuff. And you know, you don't want to put yourself at risk for anything, because this is supposed to be an enjoyable experience, you know, with vaping. So you don't want to, you know, you don't want to have negative results from something that's supposed to be a positive. But that's it for now. Y'all take care, and happy vaping.